All right, so right now I'm going to use Adobe Experience Design and Adobe Fireworks to show you guys my process of designing an app prototype. And the app that I'm going to kind of remodel is Tinder. So I'm going to use some free assets for the purpose of creating this video and doing this tutorial, which I'll show you how to get some free assets. Obviously, the purpose of this is to be as productive and come out of the gate with a prototype as fast as possible. The prototype is not necessarily going to be the MVP, which MVP stands for minimum viable product that you're going to have in the App Store working. The purpose of the prototype is to show investors or a developer that actually does the coding for the app exactly what you want, how you want it to look, how you want it to work, the user experience and the management experience of the app, so that the development can take place as efficiently as possible. If you don't have a prototype or an idea of the design and the visual workflow and the user experience of the app, it's going to cost you more money and more time to get it developed by the developer, because the quicker the developer can understand exactly what you're trying to implement in the app, the better for you and the developer's time, for efficiency and for productivity across the board. So some developers charge by the hour, some developers charge by project, and some developers charge a consulting fee if you don't have these ideas already in place. It's like trying to start a business without having a business plan. The purpose of the business plan is to help you understand what questions need to be answered and what answers, analyze the answers that you find from those questions, so that you can better prepare yourself to actually start and run the business. The whole purpose of the business plan is for, being self-aware of what you're capable of, who you're going to need to help you, why you need them, what it's going to cost, how much time it might take. And creating a prototype is the same thing as creating a business plan for a business. The prototype is going to kind of walk people on your team through what you have in your head. So if you're a designer, this is going to be easy for you. If you are a developer, or if you're not a designer, if you don't have any creative talent whatsoever, then hiring a designer to do this for you is going to be beneficial for you if you're trying to get an app developed, or, if you have a great idea for an app and you think that this could potentially change your life, make you $1 million, or whatever your goal is for this app that you have in your head. It's great to have a designer on team or someone in your little arsenal that can help you create this prototype, which you'll use to take potentially to investors. Investors will see that you have put forth some action and some effort, some time, maybe even some money into this product without their help and their resources, which that investor is going to value you as a person and your team as a group of people, and the effort that you guys have put together on the front end more than they will value the idea of the app itself. Everybody has a great idea, but investors want a team of people who are capable of making decisions without, obligation, right? So if you find an investor and they know that you take action without their help, then they'll know that you take action with their help. So they'll have, they'll be more likely to trust you with their money and their resources of people that they bring onto your team, given that you've put forth this action on the front end. So getting started, I'm going to open up Adobe Experience Design. If you don't know how to get access to Experience Design, it's through Creative Cloud. So first you can go and download Creative Cloud. Once you find Creative Cloud, and I'll actually walk you through that as well. So let's go to Google and we're going to type download, if this will open. We're going to type download Creative Cloud, and we're going to search for the link that says download Creative Cloud desktop app Adobe support. Clicking this link gives you the option to download Creative Cloud app for Windows or for Mac. Once you download that, you'll have this little pop-up that opens once you install Creative Cloud. You click on the Apps tab, and all of the apps that you have available to you will be here to install. You can search, change the filter to all apps. and here you'll find Adobe Xd. I've already got it installed. Here's what it looks like. Experience Design CC. This is now the newest beta for 2017. Once you have it installed, you can open it. Also, for those of you who are looking for Adobe Fireworks, change the filter from all apps to previous versions, and here you'll find Adobe Fireworks. All right, the latest version for this is CS6, which means Adobe is no longer offering updates or premium support, which is why it's going to be in the previous versions filter. So you won't see this by default because all of the new versions are Creative Cloud. All right, so that is how you go and find Experience Design and Fireworks. So I'm going to open up Adobe Experience Design. The first thing that you'll find is you'll have the option to open up different canvas sizes, and by default the iPhone canvas size is 375 by 667, which is not the full iPhone canvas size, so we don't ever want to use this template. But before I open a custom canvas size, I'm going to open up the tutorial. This is going to basically tell you exactly how Experience Design works. And this is going to give you a awesome walkthrough of basically how to use the app. So you have a couple of options. If you're using like a touch display, you can use 2 fingers to like zoom in, but I'm using a Windows computer, so I'll use Ctrl and the mouse wheel to zoom in to exactly where I want to go. And this says finish the Camp Vibes app. The first thing you want to do is preview the current design using the play button in the top right hand corner. So we're going to press this play button. This gives us a desktop preview of the app that we currently have. I don't think there's much of anything that I can do in here, but I can click on the blog and I can go back. All right, so it has this cool little... All right, there's a lot of stuff going on in this desktop version of the app, but also we can see that this is not our full size. So if we were to preview this on our phones, it would have a black space around it because our phones are in 1080p, and I'll tell you about that in a second. Now, the next thing that we want to do is create a splash screen. So we select our artboard tool to the left on the left panel, which is right here. All right. And click inside of the box to the right. All right, we clicked inside of the box and we created an artboard. Switch back to the selection tool and drag on the left panel, drag and position the blue Camp Vibes logo below onto the artboard. So here's our logo, which is a vector graphic. All right, we can bring vector graphics in from Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Fireworks, Adobe Photoshop. I'll show you how to do that if you're interested in taking our full course. But in the meantime, I'm just going to go through this preview. So I'm going to drag this over to our canvas now that we've created, and I'm going to center this vertically and horizontally. All right, so double click the artboard and use the fill tool in the right panel to choose a background color. So I'm going to double click my artboard. We're going to use our fill tool to choose a background color. So what I'm going to do first is use the eyedropper tool or the color picker. I'm going to pick the color of my camp logo, and then I'm going to use the color filler to kind of bring this color down. Do I want it to be brighter or darker? To bring this color down in darkness. So we've got the blue color. Now we're going to bring it down in darkness to have that same blue color, but a darker version of it. All right, so cool. I like that. And let's see what it says to do for number 3. Number 3 says to pick a profile image. So what's really cool about Adobe Experience Design is that I can take images from my computer or from the web and drag them directly into a vector. This is a vector circle. So I'm going to go over to my Facebook. And I'm going to go to my Facebook profile, and I'm just going to drag this image into, well, actually, I'm just going to drag the image directly from my profile. So I'll grab this image. We're going to drag it into our circle, and it's going to update that automatically. All right, so it says, You can drag and drop any image from your computer to the gray circle in the home artboard on the left. The image automatically masks to the shape. Well, it doesn't tell you that you can drag an image from inside of your web browser as well, which is really awesome. Number 4, extend the blog post list. All right, so we have this blog post right here, and what I want to do is repeat this blog post so that we can create a repeating grid of this blog post so that we can have several blog posts inside of our prototype. So instead of doing this copy and paste and then reposition it where I want it, instead, what we can do is click on the blog post that we have in a group. If I double click this group, I'll now get access to all the different elements of this item, right? So we have a grouped item right here that we want to now repeat and duplicate. We're going to use the repeat grid option. So this says, click repeat grid in the right panel, drag the handle down to make a list, adjust the padding by dragging the pink space between the items. All right, multiple images pro tip. You can select multiple images from your computer or from the web, from the internet, and drag them together into one of the images in the repeat grid. The grid will update with all of your images. So first, I'm gonna grab this group, then I'm gonna click on the repeat grid option. Now we can repeat this to the right or to the left. So I'm gonna undo this. We're gonna repeat this down, not to the left, to the right or down. So we're going to repeat this down, and it's going to automatically give us a repeat grid inside of our prototype. Now what I want to do is change these images. I want 3 images, and I want this to be 3 individual images. So let me make sure my volume is turned up. Mic check 1 2. That's a little bit better. I don't like the background noise, but it's okay. I'll deal with it for now. I'm going to go up to my web browser. I'm going to go over to Google. Okay, so let me move over. I'm going to go over to google.com, and I'm going to search something like nostalgic photography. Just because, why not? I'm going to click on images, and I'm going to create a folder maybe on my desktop or somewhere. So for right now, I guess we'll go into Hi App. I created a video for app design yesterday, which is what this folder is for. But I'm going to create a new folder in here, and I'm going to name this default or inspiration. So images that I'm taking inspiration from. And then what I'm going to do is go over to Google. We don't need really high quality images, so we don't need to go and grab the big 1280 1080p size images. Instead, we can just grab the images straight from the Google preview that we want to use. So for the purpose of this, I have 3 images inside of Experience Design in our repeat grid. What I'm going to do is grab this image from Google, and of course it's not. Let's see if this is our full size image. All right, so it's not our full size image. Alternatively, if we clicked on this image and grabbed this image, whoops. If we grab this full size image, copy image, and paste it here inside of Adobe Fireworks, this is the real size of the image. We don't need the full size. All right, so you've got a full size from Google and the preview image from Google. We just want to download the preview image because it's going to take up less space in our prototype. All right, so instead of grabbing this image, we're going to grab this image and drag it over here. I'm going to grab a few more images, maybe this one. Let's see. Instead of just dragging it, I'm just going to copy image or save image as. And I'm going to browse to that folder, inspiration, and save that here. I'm going to save it as a different name, obviously. So download to. And I'm going to find one more image I'm going to use. This one looks pretty cool. Save image as. Download. It's going to append a new name. Awesome. So now that I have this folder with these 3 images, I'm going to grab all 3 images and I'll drag those images into where our image is inside of our repeat grid. So I'm just going to drag that over on top of that, but I'm going to grab all 3. So I give it a second and it automatically updates each image. So depending on the image that you click and drag, so there's download, download 2, and then download in parentheses 1. Even though these are, let's make this a little bit bigger. So I have these 3 images that I just dragged over here. I'm going to go in here and undo it. So I'm going to start by dragging I don't know if it's going to change the order in which the images are in here, but I'm going to see if it does. All right, so it does. So when I click and drag from these 3 images, the image that you click on when you drag is going to be the one that shows up first. All right, so I'm going to undo that again. I'm going to click on the girl this time and drag it over, all 3, and she's going to show up on top. All right, so I hope that makes sense. I'm going to do it one more time. Now I'm going to grab all 3 and drag it from the bike. All right, so if you want these to show up in a specific order, change the name of the images and arrange the images by image name in the folder, and then drag clicking on the first image that you want to be updated here, and they will update in order inside of the grid automatically. That's the cool thing about Experience Design. All right, so let's see if there's a number 5. Number 5, let it scroll. So by selecting our canvas, it says select the vertical form or select the gear artboard on the right by clicking on the artboard name. All right, so this is the gear artboard. The name of the artboard is gear. We're going to click on the name, which is up here in the top, and then we're going to drag the bottom of this artboard down to about right here. All right, so this gives us a scrolling artboard, and I'll show you what that means in just a second. Number 6, well, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and preview this gear artboard by clicking play. All right, so this gives us a really big artboard, but we want to see what this looks like when we view this project from the home screen. But I'm going to do that in a second. But just keep in mind that this is going to be a scrolling artboard. Number 6, make it interactive. Switch to prototype mode by clicking on prototype at the top left right here, and then select the blue next article button at the bottom of the gear artboard, which is this one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select this button and drag the blue arrow to the adventure artboard, which is right here. So I'm going to drag the blue arrow over to the adventure artboard. Now wire the adventure artboard's back button to the gear artboard. All right, so I'm going to grab the back button right here and wire that to the gear artboard. Number 7 says share your prototype for feedback. So I'm going to go back to the desktop preview window and see our work in action. All we have to do now is go back to our iPhone home screen or splash screen artboard, and I don't know if I can bring that over to, I don't think we have anything prototype from there, or do we? So I'm going to grab this icon now, and I'm going to wire this to our welcome screen, our home screen. It looks like we have our blog already wired to the blog screen. We've got this image wired to the image in this blog screen, wired to our gear board. And then the next article button wired to our adventure, our next article board, and then the back button wired back to the gear board. So I hope that all makes sense. We're going to preview this from our splash screen, and I'm going to select the splash screen and click the play button. So if I click on the icon, it brings us to our home screen. If I click on our blog, it brings us up to our the blog screen. If I click on the gear guide at the very top, it's going to go to the gear artboard, which is supposed to scroll. So let's see, I think I need to go and undo this. I made a couple of adjustments, but let's see, select vertical scrolling from the drop down to the right. All right, so one thing that I have to do is go back to the design mode and grab our gear artboard that we created to be really long. And then I need to add vertical scrolling to this as an option. So right now it's set to none. We're going to add this as vertical scrolling. Now when we go back and preview our app, play, this is going to give us the opportunity to see what this looks like when we want to scroll on the gear artboard, or it's supposed to. Why didn't that work? So gear, vertical. All right, so I accidentally set that to all of these, I think. Vertical scrolling. Ah, okay, I see what I did. So to remedy this, we got to remember the height is 667. So I'm going to change the height back to 667. And then I'm going to bring, whoops, 667. Let's make sure this is 667. Now I'm going to enable vertical scrolling now, and let's see if this will work now. Okay, so now when I drag this over, it gives us this dotted line past our threshold of the iPhone's height, and we can now use this screen to scroll down to the next article button. So if I preview this, all right, we can now scroll. This gives us the vertical scrolling option. So I'm going to go back and preview the entire app. Play. Next article, back. All right, so awesome. And I'm going to add a wire from this icon up here back to the splash screen. So I'm going to grab prototype mode, grab this icon. We're going to wire that to our splash screen. And I'm going to go back and preview our app again. All right, so that is prototyping in Adobe Experience Design. I can bring this up on my phone using the Adobe Experience Design app, which you download from the App Store. And then you'd have to save this project as a Experience Design document inside of your Creative Cloud folder. All right, so to do that, you want to open up Creative Cloud. Once that's open, we're going to go, let's see, home. So I'm going to click on Creative Cloud Files using this cog icon. And now we have all of our Creative Cloud files right here. What I can do is I'm going to go up to this hamburger icon in the top left-hand corner, File, Save As. We're going to save this as, we're going to save this on the desktop for now in our Hi app. I'm going to save this as XD tutorial, save. I'm going to minimize everything. I'm going to go back into our app, and we're going to drag this tutorial file over to our Creative Cloud folder. Once it's synced, it'll show us a green check mark. So I'm going to pull up my iPhone, and I'm going to see if I can open this up in Experience Design app. We're going to go over to our app. I'm going to open up our Creative Cloud folder, and we're going to find that tutorial that we just saved, that tutorial file, once everything syncs. So here's Adobe Experience Design tutorial. We're going to wait for everything to load. And you see now how it has, it says 4 missing fonts. I'm okay with that. You see now how it has, well, you probably can't see it, but on my phone, it has a little black space around the preview on the phone. All right, it looks like this. I don't want that with our app that we actually create from scratch. So that's the reason why we designed this in 1080p by 1920. 1080p or 1080 pixels wide, 1920 pixels tall. But I can tap on everything. All right, so I can tap on this logo, and it brings us to our home screen. I can tap our blog, and it brings everything up. I can tap Gear Guide, and I'm on iOS 11, so my app likes to crash a lot. If you're not on a beta version of iOS, you should not have any issues going through this on the Xd app. But in my case, I do, because I'm using a beta version of iOS on my iPhone 7 Plus. The second beta version, actually, which Experience Design is not optimized for iOS 11, which is why this thing is going to crash sometimes. But I can long press to access the menu and show all the artboards for our app. So let me click on Gear Guide and see if it'll open. It might not. There it is. So now I can scroll down. Okay, so I'm doing this directly inside of our Experience Design app on my iPhone right now. Just to show you, there it is. All right, so I'm going to show you guys my workflow. If I were, let's assume that I was going to design a Tinder app, right? I'm going to show you my workflow for what I would do to just create the initial design. So the first thing that I want to do is understand what pages we need. First, we need a splash screen. Then we need a login and sign up screen. And then we need a home screen. From there, you might have a profile. You might have an activity or a news feed. You might have a blog. You might have settings like in-app settings. So all of that you have to kind of plan out before actually going through the design, so you can understand what the pages will look like, what different features and options you're going to have on the pages. And what I do is I create a folder. So this folder, I'm going to change the name of this to Tinder app. And I'm going to delete everything inside of this, even though we just kind of created this app the other day. And then what I'll do is create a new folder in here. We're going to name this Assets. I'm going to grab a new folder. We're going to name this one Inspiration. New folder, Screens. And I'll start with, I'll minimize that. And I'm going to open up Adobe Fireworks. I'm going to create a new canvas. You can use Illustrator, you can use Photoshop, you can use Affinity Design, whatever design program you use. Try it. If you are familiar with vector-based editing, then use whatever program you're most comfortable with. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to create a new canvas at 1080 wide by 1920 tall. All right, and I'm going to give this a transparent background for right now. So the first thing that I'm going to design is the splash screen. Let's say you have a vectorized logo of your app already designed. You design it, or you hire someone to design it on 99 Designs or Upwork.com. You can bring that vector graphic in here. What I'm going to do for the purpose of this tutorial is go and find a random logo that we can use for this. I'm going to open a new tab. Let's say camp logo, images, and I'm just going to grab a random logo, but I want to, let's see, tools, color, transparent. And we don't need something that's going to be huge, but I really liked one that I just saw. I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to copy this since it has no transparency. I'm going to paste it in here. Actually, I'm going to grab a new document and edit this really quick. All right, so let's say we have our vectorized logo right here. I'm going to turn this black for right now. but this is a vector graphic. I can save this as in Fireworks. There's a little workaround that I have to do to make this work, to import this into Adobe Experience Design. If you're using Illustrator, you're not going to have a problem. You're just going to have to save this as an SVG. I think in Photoshop you can export as an SVG as well. Let me go ahead and open up Illustrator, and I'm going to save this as an Illustrator document inside of our new folder we created on the desktop. So I'm going to go and find our app folder. We're going to find assets, and I'm going to save this as, whoops, we're going to save this right now as logo, or let's see. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to title this vectors. So in here, I'm going to save this as a Adobe Illustrator file. I'm going to name this logo. I'm going to open that file inside of Illustrator. I've got to go in File, Save As, and I've got to save this as an SVG. Now I can close this, minimize this. Now we can go back over to Adobe Experience Design, and I'm going to create a new document. We're going to go to File, New, and we're going to add a custom size of 1080 width by 1920 height, and just click on it. I'm going to name this first canvas that we have. Well, actually, I'm not going to name it at all. Instead, I'm just going to click on the title of this canvas, hit Ctrl C to copy, and then Ctrl V to paste, 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 to give us a few empty canvases to work on. Now I'm going to name our first canvas Splash. All right, so this is the loading screen basically. I'll go over to our hamburger icon, and I'll hit Control Shift I, or I'll just click on Import. We're going to go and find our folder from the desktop, which we named this Tinder app, assets, vectors, and we're going to find our logo that we saved from Adobe Illustrator as an SVG. We're going to move this over to our first splash screen, and we're going to make sure that splash screen is selected. So I want this to be centered horizontally and vertically. Now we can double click on our canvas to change the color. We can double click on our logo, which is an SVG, to change the color. So we have this logo. I'll go over here and adjust the fill, FILL, and let's choose a red. All right, I like this. And what I'll do is I'll keep the background white to keep it kind of minimalist. Looks like we have a comment. Let's see what's going on with Facebook right now. All right. Thank you guys for joining in and watching. And I appreciate the comments, and I'll respond to some of your comments at the end of the stream. So now we have our splash screen, and we have this vector logo imported in here as a vector graphic, which is good because we can always go out and export our screens for other apps or for our developers to be able to access these vector graphics. So here's our splash screen. We don't really have anything crazy in here. You could go into Google and find a really high quality image if you were not Google, but find an image from your desktop or Google and bring that into our app. This is not a really high quality image. Let me find something that is pretty high quality that we can use. So let's grab this out of Google and drag it directly into our splash background. That's still not a big image, but that's okay. You can hold down, I think it's Control and the left bracket, to bring this image back in the layers towards the back, towards the canvas, so that it's behind our logo. I'm going to stretch this out. And I don't know if we can trim, but I'm not going to worry about trimming anything right now. So for now, really, you can move this wherever you want it. We'll put it here. I want to make it a little bit bigger than our canvas. And then maybe I'll change the opacity down to where the white background kind of comes in there a little bit. All right, so there's the splash screen with an image. I usually like to keep it white, but I just kind of want to use this for the sake of the tutorial right now. The next screen that I want to do is a home screen. So the first thing I'm going to do, instead of designing inside of Adobe Experience Design, what I like to do is use Adobe Fireworks. I'm going to save this as our splash screen under our screens folder. So I'm going to save this as splash. And now I'm going to Ctrl Shift S to save this as home. All right, so I can delete our logo, or I can hide it for now. And I'm just going to create some vector shapes in here that I'm going to use inside of our home screen. I kind of know how I want the design to be. So we're just going to pretty much mimic what Tinder has. Let me grab my logo and bring that up to the very top. Change the size of it. One thing that I can do really quickly is minimize this and go back to Experience Design. I want to open a UI kit inside of Experience Design. The UI kit I'm going to open is Apple's iOS. And I'm going to go over to our control center. I'm going to grab this carrier text. And I'm also going to grab another full width element just so that we can use this as a reference for the size of our carrier text. I'm going to copy this, Control C. I'll minimize this and go to our canvas. We're going to go over to our custom canvas 2, name this home. And then I'll Control V to paste that in here. So again, let me go back to the UI that we opened. I'm going to grab both our carrier text and a full width element from this template, Control C. On the home canvas, I'll hit Control V to paste that. And we want to make sure this is in the bottom right hand corner. We want to trim it using the Shift button so that we can lock the aspect ratio. And then fit this to snap to our left hand edge of our app canvas. And then I can delete this control panel that we used as a reference. Now, for now, let me double click on the canvas and change it to like a dark green so that you can see what we're working with. I'm going to change the text to a black color. Our carrier Wi-Fi icon should also be black, along with everything else. We can delete this Bluetooth icon or just leave it there. It's up to you. But I want to change all the colors of the element because we plan on having a white background here. So we can't have white elements. Now I'll double click on my background again and change that back to white. And that's what we have right there. All right, so one thing that I know about this is that, let's see. This is at 21.6, so about 23 pixels from the left of the screen and 12 pixels down. So this is 12 pixels down and the height is about 43 pixels tall. So if I go to Adobe Fireworks, I can, let's see, it said 43 pixels tall. 43 pixels tall and 12 pixels down. So 40, 50. So maybe about 55 pixels is what we need in Adobe Fireworks. Grab a rectangle tool. We'll set this rectangle to 55 pixels high or tall, and then 1080 pixels wide, and then set the X and Y coordinates to 0 and 0. That is going to take place of our carrier settings. So this is just temporary so that we can know not to put anything overlaying those carrier settings. So we have our logo here. I'm going to go and grab some other assets from Google. So this avatar group logo, I'm going to copy this, actually save it. I'm going to save this in a throwaway folder so we can delete it later. And I'm going to do a couple of magic tricks with this. If you have a designer, they can figure out how to do this type of thing, design these assets from scratch. But I'm just going to use this for the sake of the tutorial. So your designer is going to want to design these assets from scratch. I don't know if you guys can see these like lines that are preventing me from using this asset for free. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to make some changes to this to make it so that we can just use it. All right, I want this to be pretty much the same size as, or the same height as our logo that we have up here. I'm going to bring this over to the right hand side. All right, it's a pretty big freaking logo, or it's a pretty big icon. So I'm going to drag it down. All right, so now we're creating all the vector elements that we want to have in this app. If you've used Tinder before, you probably will have an idea of what is going on, what I'm doing right now. Grab some text. So what I'm doing is creating all of the vector assets that I want to use inside of the home screen of my app. I'm going to center this text right here. So I'm literally just creating the vector of what I want to use inside of this app. And I'm using Adobe Fireworks. I mean, you can use whatever you want to use. I know I'm going to have a white background, but I use transparency here because we don't need any background color. There is already background color inside of, or there's already a canvas inside of Experience Design where we're going to be using some of these assets. But what I do want to create is a rectangle now. Let's make this 1080 width. I'm going to set this to 0. And we're going to transform this. And I'll make sure this is at the very bottom of our canvas. I'm going to turn this green for now and move it to the very bottom of our layers so we can have some perspective to work with. We're going to turn this one another color. Make sure it's centered on our canvas. And I'm just going to use these tools, these shapes. I'm going to use this ellipse that I just created to cut out this shape from this square. So the ellipse is on top of the green square or rectangle. I'm going to go up to modify, combine paths, and punch. And now I'm going to change the color of this to like a light gray. All right, so now I can kind of take this and adjust its position. Move everything down exactly where I want it to be. I want to add a little bitty rectangle kind of in the center of this. Again, we're just pretty much designing what's in Tinder. I want the width of this to be like maybe 1 or 2 pixels. And the same color as this overlay right here. But we're going to center this. We're going to center that horizontally. I know you guys probably cannot see that. I'll change the color of it so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so I got this little divider right there. All right, so I'm designing these assets. Modify, combine paths, union. Settings and info. I'm going to change the color of these to also fit this. So I'm going to set this to the background to like a green for now, just so you guys can see what I'm editing and why. I'm going to change the color of our text to black. And I'm going to set the font to Arial. All right, and then the next thing I want to do is, let's see, maybe these icons can, okay, those icons are fine. I'm going to go back to Google, grab a couple of assets really quick. So like a cog icon. I'm going to save this image on our throwaway folder. And since it has transparency, I'm going to come in here and kind of make this really big. I'm just creating a vector out of this graphic. And I'm going to center that graphic in our circle, this circle right here. So this is going to be like a settings button. I'm going to change the color of that to match this. Let's make sure these are also white. All right, it's much easier to see that. And I'm going to grab maybe like a pencil icon for, because we're pretty much redesigning Tinder. And if you have a designer, if you are a designer, make these assets from scratch. It's not as hard as it might look. Or download some existing assets from other designers. I can give you some links if you need them. Just let me know. There are assets that you can download for free that you can use inside of your app prototype. The point is to just create a prototype. It's not to design something that's pixel perfect, because you probably won't end up using that same design when the real app is put into the app store. All right. You're probably going to have another designer that does most of this work for you once the app actually gets developed for the app store. All right, so now I can go back and delete my reference, or I can hide it or do whatever with it. But now I've got all these vector assets that are pretty much created for what we're going to use inside of our home screen. I got a couple other things that I'm going to add, like a rectangle. Change the color of this to green for now. And then give this rectangle a complete rounded edge and ungroup it. So for this, maybe I want to have some text in there. Remember, this is, if you are familiar with Tinder, or if you're not, go and download Tinder, log in, and you'll see exactly what I'm designing. Just want to make these gray assets just a little bit lighter. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots that we can put in there. So I'm going to draw these dots. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to move it exactly where I want it. Grab all these and give it like an equal spacing. So object evenly. All right, and I'm going to turn these a little bit darker than what our background is here. Technically, there's some text that should go here. We'll probably go ahead and just copy our existing text. And I'm going to bring back a transparent background. So now I'm going to Control Shift S to save this. We already have this saved as a home screen, but we saved it as an Illustrator file by accident. You want to make sure you save this as a Fireworks PNG or a project file specifically for the app or program that you're using. In my case, I'm using Adobe Fireworks, so we're going to save this as home Adobe Fireworks. Right, so now what I can do is close these out. I'm going to open these up, or I'm also going to save this as an Illustrator document as well. So once I pretty much have everything exactly where I want it, I should be able to go Control Shift S, save as Illustrator, so home. Let's see if we can open that up in Adobe Illustrator. All right, and if you see that everything is kind of out of whack as far as the canvas, your, what do you call this, your artboard. My artboard is not big enough, so I'll just change the artboard to be at 1080 by 1920. Let's see exactly where we're supposed to do this. Layers, artboard. So click on the artboard icon and then click on the artboard icon where it says artboard 2, and then we're going to change this from width to change the width to 1080 and the height to 1920, and everything fits in there perfectly because our width and height was set to be exactly where we wanted it to be inside of Adobe Fireworks, which was 1080 by 1920. So I'm going to go and save this. We're going to save that same Illustrator file. Then we're going to hit Control Shift S to save this as an SVG. Now I don't know how well this is going to work with an SVG, but we're going to try it in Experience Design. I'm going to open up my Experience Design document, and I'm going to go to the hamburger icon and import. Let's see if we can import that entire SVG. So screens, home, converted. All right, so it imported the entire SVG, and now I have all of my assets in here. I'm going to change the color of this circle though back to black so you can see it a little better. And the background of these were supposed to also be the same color as this. So that means the background of these are supposed to be a little darker. So I want our settings to align with this, and our edit text to also align with this circle. Double click that text, triple click it. We're going to change this to Arial, and we're going to make sure it's centered. Might need to align it again. We do the same thing with this text. Arial, centered, and then align it again. Now I can go back and edit this text. So edit info, settings. I'm going to make my text a little bit bigger. Also set this to Arial, centered, and we want this one to be bold. I'm going to center that and transform it a bit. Let's see, so size. Now I can go back to my Facebook. I'll go to my profile, and I'll find a random image that I want to use, and I'll just drag this image over onto that circle. I'm going to delete this black bar that we had in here as a reference. and maybe change the color of some of these assets to make them a little bit lighter. Awesome. So just wanted to make some aesthetic changes to make sure all of my text was centered properly. This is our this is basically the Tinder home screen. So if you're familiar with Tinder, if you've used Tinder, this is what the home screen looks like. All right. One thing that you can't do with Adobe Experience Design is create animations or use GIFs or use any type of fading of different elements or automatically sliding certain elements to do certain things. But you can create the mock-up. Now, let's say I want to click on this party logo. We're going to go to prototype and we're going to link this party logo to our home screen from the splash screen. We're going to set this to, let's try push down or push up. Let's try push up, and we're gonna make this a long transition. So basically what I'm doing here is changing the transition settings. We're gonna make this 1 second. I'm gonna click on my splash screen text and click on the play button, and what I have now is I can click on this logo and it's gonna load our home screen. All right, if I open this up on my phone, which I'm going to try to do in a second once we design a few more screens, you should be able to preview this in full screen. Again, don't update your phone to iOS 11 or 11.2, the beta, because Adobe Experience Design is probably not ready for that. You should have a pretty optimal experience when creating these assets in Experience Design and previewing them on your phone. Now you can take a working beta to the people that you're trying to, reach out to for investments. You can share a link with them so they can see this, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create my third screen, which is going to be like basically the screen where you swipe left and right. We're not going to have any actual swiping in here. This is just a prototype. But now that we have that, we can go back to Adobe Fireworks and save Ctrl-Shift-S our screen. We're going to save this now, Fireworks PNG document, as Tinder main or main screen. So I'm going to save this as the main screen. So we can now get rid of some of the assets we use. I'm going to go and give this a green background again so that we can see what we're doing. And I'm going to bring, let's see, I'm going to duplicate this. Let me see what the distance is from the wall to our icon right here. So the width of this is 37 pixels. I'm going to move this over to where it's 37 pixels from our left-hand wall. And then we're going to give that a gray color now. And what I'm going to do is create a rectangle. I think that'll work. We're going to center this rectangle and give it a rounded edge. Grab another rectangle, do the same thing. I'm going to overlay that one. But I want to grab another rectangle just to give us a reference for, whoops. For our outline. And this is just how I do my designing for prototypes. I'm going to transform our rectangle we just created. And now I'm going to give that a different color. I'm going to round those edges. Looks pretty cool. Change the height to 48. Make it a little more complete. Might be a little too much. All right, that's a little bit better. I like that better. So now what I'm doing is creating our button that you see when you log into Tinder, or that button at the top in the middle of the screen. This is pretty much what you get. I'm going to make a couple of aesthetic changes to it. And then I'm going to group those together and center it. All right, so we're legitimately creating a prototype. Basically, this is going to be the Tinder app. But I know I want to make a couple of changes to some things, so I need to grab an icon from Google. Let's do this one. It's a little small. We can make it work. All right, so now I'm going to just select the area around this. Let's turn the selection up. Now, I'm not really teaching you a lot of design work right now, more so teaching you, let's invert this, the process and how easy it is to create a prototype. not creating something that's pixel perfect. And then maybe we'll put a random icon in here. I'll just grab the Tinder logo. We'll use that. All right, so I can get rid of all the stuff that we have in here. I'll keep the text. We don't need the settings or the edit info or this bottom piece anymore. Maybe I'll keep one of these icons. No need for any of that. I'll grab this and move it down. Gonna draw me a rectangle in here. And give that a rounded edge. I'm going to turn that white and move it back in our layers to the background. Then I'm going to grab another rectangle, cover this entire thing, but I'm going to transform it to split the entire thing in half. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom so that we have 3 individual pieces right here. All right, so in the end, I end up with this image, this or shape, these 3 shapes. And there's a rounded edge around the entire thing. So I want to make sure they're all in the very back. Then I'll grab this text right here. I'm going to turn that white. I'm going to give these more of a darker gray color. And I want to change this icon. So I'll just create this from scratch. So I'm real picky about like how I design my assets, but you know, and I hope that you guys are too. But again, this is meant to be a prototype that you use, all right, when you take to potential investors, for example. So now that we have this entire page pretty much created the way that we want to, what we're going to do now is, again, we're going to save this, Ctrl S to save this as main screen. So we save this as main screen. I actually meant to save this as groups screen. Now I'm Ctrl Shift S. I'm going to remove our background color. And yeah, I'm going to remove our background color. We're going to save this again now as an Illustrator file. I'm going to go and open that Illustrator file. I'm just going to click OK because I want to keep my text as it is. And again, we're going to go to our artboard, change this to 1080 by 1920. Control Shift S. I'm going to save this. And now I'm going to save it as an SVG. Now let's see if we can go and import that into Experience Design. We're going to put this in Custom Screen 4 as groups. Import groups screen. All right, so it looks like a couple of things are missing here. Let's go back in and make sure that we have saved everything properly. And I think I know exactly what it might be. Maybe nothing's missing, it's just the colors. I'm going to go and copy this carrier text into our groups text. I'm going to move this up to 0. And I don't know if we can do vector or gradient colors. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. If we can do gradient colors in here. So we'll just keep that blue for now, and I'll also turn this blue. I'm going to group these and center them like so. And then ungroup them. Adjust this text a little bit. And let's see. I'm going to go and grab 3 more pictures from Google now. And I'll search like cute girl images. I'm just going to grab 3 random images of some girls. So let's say some images that kind of look like they'd be actually taken by the girls. I'll put this in our inspirations folder. Her. Actually, I want bigger sized pictures. So I'll click on the picture and actually save the image. All right, let me grab 2 more. I want these to kind of look normal. If I can't find something normal, that's all right. I'm just going to find something real quickly. All right, so here we have our folder. What is up with this? That's not a real image. Let me go back and grab a real image. Save as .jpg. View, large. All right, so this image didn't work. So we're gonna grab something different. I'll do this one. All right, so let's say I want this one to be on the top and these 2 to be on the side, because in our artboard we have a wider top image, and I don't know if we can update these all together at one time. So what I'm just going to do is grab this one and drag it onto the top of this. So let me go in here, select it, open up our folder, and drag it there. I'll go and grab this image and this image, hold shift. Let's see if we can grab both of these at the same time. No, we couldn't. So I'm going to do one at a time instead. All right, and there you have it. It's updated. I just need to change some settings to make this a little bit darker, but you know, that's something that we can deal with at a later time. But what I could do actually is, let's see if we can save this transparency in here. Modify, combine patch union. I'll grab it and turn it a gradient color. Also make this one black, and then give it transparency like so. Now I'm going to delete everything else. And I'm going to try to save this as a PNG file. I want to see if I can import that in here. Maybe not, but we'll see. Yeah, it does. So awesome. I can import this in here and then move it exactly where I need it to be. And then I can throw this under our text by holding Alt and or Control left bracket. So let me actually go and ungroup this. Control Shift G. And then I'll grab this image and move it back. Control left bracket. There it is. All right, so that this brings our text out a little bit more, and I can kind of change how bright it is. We're going to keep it pretty dark for now because this is just a prototype. I don't like the quality of this image. So I'm going to find a different one. Yeah, you can tell I'm a little picky, but it is what it is. I'm going to save this. All right, that's much better. And I'm going to make some aesthetic changes to some of our icons in here and change the color to make sure that everything can be seen. Change this to Arial Bold. Awesome. And there is our group screen. So let me go and link a couple of things together. I'm going to link this group's logo, this group's icon, using the prototype tool to this screen. And then I'm going to link it back using this icon here, if I can select it. And we want those to maybe let's see what it looks like if we push right, and then what this one looks like if we push left. I'll go to my splash screen and hit the play button. Awesome. We have a working app with like real buttons that, you know, can give us some cool little transitions. What other options do we have? So we have push left, and I think that might be it. I thought I had a different animation with that push left. Let's try slide left and see if that makes a difference. I'm going to change this one to slide right. Ah, there we go. I like that. So we just created a few pages of this app, and of course it doesn't give us the same animation that we have inside of the animation that we have inside of the actual app, but we've created a prototype that really works if you were to open this up on your phone. I'm going to share a link in the description, both on YouTube and Facebook, so you guys can go and click on this and pretty much check out what I've created. I'm going to go ahead and design our main screen, which basically is going to be the same iteration of everything we just did, except this is going to be one single image. This is pretty much going to be flipped, so I can literally flip it. And make sure my Tinder app or icon is at the top. And change this again to that gray color. And we have a few different options right here. So I'm going to copy this text, move it up, then move it over. All right, so we've pretty much got the exact same screen, except this is going to be a alternative version of what we just created. I'm not too concerned about the logos that we're going to use in here, the icons, but we're going to grab this and make this a solid color. I'm going to give it that same, actually I'm going to create this as white. I'm going to remove this icon in here for right now. I'm going to center this on my canvas. Duplicate it, duplicate it again, All right, so it looks like our image is actually supposed to be a little bigger. I'm not too concerned with that image size. We're just trying to make something that's kind of cool, right? Or we're basically recreating what Tinder is supposed to be. So I'm not going to worry about putting the icons in here right now, but I would normally go ahead and design the icons. I'm going to keep this as is, and this is going to be the second version of our screen. And I'm just going to go ahead and change the canvas color. We're going to Control Shift S. We're going to save this as a Fireworks PNG. We're going to save this as main screen. Now I'm going to save this again as an Illustrator document. I'm going to open that Illustrator file. Just going to hit OK. We're going to change our artboard size again, 1080 by 1920. and I'm pretty happy with that. I want to look back at, I think our background is supposed to be slightly gray. But what I'm just going to do right now is go ahead and save this. Control Shift, or actually Control Shift S. We're going to save our home screen or main screen. And then we're going to Control Shift S and save this as a SVG. And I'm going to import this into our main screen artboard. Import. We're going to import this as the main screen SVG. And I'm going to bring this up to 0. Go in here and delete our bar. We're going to copy this bar over to our main screen. Paste. Alright, so now I can go in here. I'm going to ungroup everything. Control Shift G. We're going to change our canvas color to just a bit of a like a darker gray. Actually, no, I'll just keep it this way for now. And I'll change these little icons down here to that darker gray color instead. Again, I'll go find an image that I want to use. Let's find something normal like a selfie. Save this, and we'll go to our folder, grab that image, and drag it in here. Now I've got to make some changes to these. So this is set to 74, or actually no, this is set to 66. These all need to be Arial. At 66. I want to just adjust these a little bit and change the size while holding the Shift button. I think that's a reasonable size. I'll go and grab this kind of transparent vector or overlay that I created, just copy it, go to this main artboard and paste it. It's going to paste in place, but I need to hold Control and the left bracket to bring it behind our text. Now I want to go back to the prototype option, and we're going to link this to, I'm going to group these two together first. Control G. Actually, yeah. Actually, no. Instead, what I'll do is go back to the design, and I'm going to grab a rectangle and just kind of draw over exactly where I want the button to be pressable. We're going to disable the fill and border color. I'm going to go over to prototype, and I'm going to bring that wire back to our main screen. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back to design and grab a rectangle. We're going to draw over this one. Disable the fill and border. Go to prototype, and we're going to wire that to our groups screen. All right, so now let's see. I'm going to grab this icon here. We're going to wire this over to our main screen or our home screen. We're going to give it the same settings as our other wire from that same icon. So slide right, ease out 1 second. Slide right, ease out 1 second. For this one, I want this one to be fade or dissolve, and give it a 0.2 second transition. The same thing with this wire is going to be a dissolve and a 0.2 second transition. Now I can Control S or Control Shift S to save this. We're going to save this inside of our main Tinder app folder as prototype 1. I'm going to click on the splash screen canvas and hit play. And now we have a working app. Ooh, this is pretty crazy now. This is pretty sick. Groups. All right, so what I'm gonna do now, I'm kind of trying to decide whether or not I want to go through the entire, like Tinder app. I don't know if I want to do that yet. I'm gonna go ahead and create another asset inside of Fireworks for my next screen. So this is going to be create group. It's going to be my create group screen. Let me go back to Fireworks. I'm going to open my group screen. So open recent group screen. I'm going to make some changes in here actually. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is pretty much delete all that's in here, but I'm going to group this all together first because I do want to use it. I need to go back and file open recent. We're going to open our home screen. I'm going to copy this. I kind of want to use this same thing. So let me just go through the design so you can just see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to save this groups screen as groups screen 2. Make sure we save that as a Fireworks PNG. So now I have these 3 shapes. I'm going to cut one of the smaller ones out of the big one. Combine paths punch. And I'm going to turn that shape white. Move this up a little bit. I'll maybe turn this black. Now I'm going to grab a rectangle at the same width of my canvas. We're going to bring that down to the bottom of the canvas. Transform it a bit. I'm going to duplicate it and transform the duplicate to go up here. And I'm going to move that back. And I'm going to use this shape right here to actually cut out of this black rectangle I created. Modify, combine paths, punch. I'm going to turn that white. And I'm going to turn this one like a light gray color. I'm going to give it a 1 pixel. Move this up 1 pixel literally. move this one up 1 pixel and give that a 1 pixel height. Whoops. Duplicate it first. And then we're going to make that a little bit darker. It's probably too dark. Alright, and then what I'll do, I'll keep everything else as is. Let me hide all of that though for now. I'm going to grab some text. Let's see, I want this text and I want this icon. And I'll keep this all as is. Let me go and grab the door. So what I'm doing now is giving you basically a full walkthrough of how I would design Tinder. Basically, I want to just go to Google really quick and grab a couple of assets that I'm going to use. So let me grab a check mark icon. I'd rather use this one. We're going to save this in our throwaway folder, or I can save this in the inspiration folder. That's cool. And I'll open it in Fireworks. Let me grab another icon. Like a search icon, and I want something that kind of has a rounded edge. I'm going to save this one and open it in Fireworks. And now I'm going to turn this into a vector. It's already got a transparent background. I'll just select around it, Control copy, Control paste, as in V as in Victor. I'm going to right click my selection, modify mark, convert to paths, and we have a vector. I'm going to copy this or cut it. Go to our groups to screen and paste it here. We're going to need that in a minute. I'm going to do the same thing for my check mark. I want to make it a little bit bigger though, so let me change the canvas to 1920 by 1920. Grab this check mark and resize it. Grab our selection tool, Control copy, Control paste. Now we have this selected. I'm going to modify mark and smooth that out like by 10 pixels. Modify mark, convert to path. Copy that, paste it here. Now we have those two vectors. I can close these. And I'm going to use the check mark. Let me delete this. I'm going to grab the check mark, turn that white, and bring that into our circle right here. And what I'll do is grab both of those and center them. So now we have like this check mark icon, which we're going to use shortly. I'm going to group those together for now. I'll bring my search up here, which we're going to use shortly as well. I'm going to lock those for the time being because I'm going to need them. Do the same thing with my text, and I know I'm going to need my text, so I'm going to grab all of this text, bring it up to the very top, lock them and hide them. Now I can grab all of these other assets that I know I don't need and group them together and hide them. So let me turn everything else back on. So now what I have, let me unlock all these assets. Change the color of this text to black. I'm going to center it and center it to my canvas. And I'm going to bring this up here. Change the size of that. This should say create a group to swipe with friends. I like the size of that text. Let me make sure it's centered to my canvas and move it up a bit. I'm going to take this background that we have and merge it with this circle that I've created, this circle right here. But before I do that, I want to cut this circle out of it. So I've got this shape. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this black circle, cut it out of our curved background, modify combine paths, punch. Now I have this shape, and this shape. So I'm going to combine our outline with this background shape. Modify combine paths, union. All right, so now I have two individual shapes. I'm going to grab this text, throw it under here, make sure it's centered and centered to my canvas. And we're going to make the text a little bit smaller and a light gray color. This is going to say choose at least one friend to continue. I'm going to move it up and space that text out a bit. Maybe not that much. Now what I'm going to do is create a, let's see, I want this icon to be about right here. And again, I want this to have that dark gray color. So I'm going to change this to make sure it says search friends. All right, so this is me being a little bit picky with what it looks like. You don't necessarily have to do this unless you're really serious about the design aspect of your app. But again, this is what it looks like to create a prototype that you can go back and use to make changes to it. I want to make sure this is aligned left. All right, I'm going to duplicate that, grab another line of text. This text is going to be more bold. And I want this little 1 pixel line that we created down here. I'm going to duplicate it and move it up. And I don't know if you guys can see that in your live stream, but let me zoom in a little bit. That's what I have, and I'm going to use this 1 pixel line to separate all of my other text. Duplicate it. Grab this circle, duplicate it, move it over, and I'm going to make some changes to it, just transform it a little bit. And we're going to use this. I only have to do this once now. I'm going to do this one time. And I'm going to use this as a grid that a repeat grid inside of Experience Design. And you'll see exactly what I mean once I bring this entire design over to Experience Design. So I think maybe we'll have this just a little bit bigger. I'm going to move it over this just a bit though. Grab some text to throw beside it. Change that to me. Space it out just a little bit. And duplicate the circle. Transform it. Actually, no, I already created this. So I'm going to grab this circle right here that I have grouped. Move it up and transform it to make it as small as I need it to be. That's about right there. And then I'll grab my 1 pixel divider, copy and paste it again. And I'm just going to make sure that all of my assets in this row are centered vertically to each other. Now let's see. Grab my last line of text and center this to my canvas. And then center this to our button in the bottom. All right, for some of this, I can change this text. I can copy this text or convert this text to a path and then group it together. That way we don't have to update our text. If we know that this text is not going to be dynamic and it's not going to change in the app, we can create a path out of this text. So once you convert the text to a path, the text is going to turn into individual objects, each letter. So once I convert it to a path, I'll go to modify, combine path in union to make sure the entire line of text is one single word, or I'm sorry, one single object. All right, so this single pixel divider, the me text, the black circle, and the circle with the check mark and the checkbox, or the circle with the check mark, are all going to be used inside of Adobe Experience Design as a repeat grid. But what I want to do before I use that as a repeat grid is take my checkbox or check mark icon, group it together, and I'm going to duplicate it and hide the original. For the actual checkbox that we are going to have duplicate in Experience Design, we don't want the check or the color and filled in circle. I'm actually going to duplicate the circle, transform it a little bit to make it slightly smaller, and punch the two out of each other, modify, combine paths, and punch. And then I'm going to convert this one to a solid colored gray. Now I can change my background color to transparent. Let me change this text at the bottom to a path. And what I'll do from here is I'll go File, Save As, and we're going to save this as our main screen number 2, or actually this is groups screen number 2, which we already have saved, but I'm going to go ahead and overwrite so that we can have our new version. I'm going to Ctrl Shift S to save this as an Adobe Illustrator file. We're going to open this up in Adobe Illustrator. Just click OK, change our artboard size to 1080 width by 1920 height. Control Shift, we're going to overwrite our group screen 2 Illustrator file. And it looks like some of the assets got updated that we don't want to have in there. So one note to take is inside of Adobe Fireworks, you want to delete all the assets that you have hidden, because they're going to import into Illustrator. So anything that you have in here that's hidden, I want to go ahead and unhide this checkbox and ungroup it. Let me see what else we have, and delete any hidden assets. So let me go back and resave this now. Save this as a PNG. All right, let me reopen that in Illustrator. All right, so that's not the right one. Let me delete the group screen 2 Illustrator file. So again, save this as an Illustrator document. Open that Illustrator document, just hit OK, change our artboard size. Now everything appears to be in its place except for the me text, which I think the me text is actually supposed to be dynamic, because we're going to make changes to the me text. So let me make sure the me text is dynamic. Great. Now I'll go in here and just kind of move this down to exactly where I want it. We can change this in Experience Design later. Now I'm going to hit Ctrl Shift S to overwrite our original Illustrator document. Ctrl Shift S again to save an SVG. Now I'll go back to Experience Design, and we're going to go to our Create Group artboard, hamburger icon, import. Now we can import our group screen 2 SVG document. All right, so this one has to sit at the very bottom of our canvas. Now I'm going to ungroup all of this, go back to our design, and the next thing I want to do actually is I'm going to grab our groups canvas, and I'm going to select everything inside of that canvas. I'm going to hit Control Copy. I'm going to go to our Create Group canvas, Control Paste, and then I'm going to hit Control G to group all of that together. I'm going to hold down Control in the left bracket to throw this behind every other asset that we created before. And one thing that I probably want to do is, let's see, we're going to grab a rectangle and throw that over the entire Create Group artboard. I'm going to hit Control and the brackets to the left bracket to bring this behind everything except for our duplicated artboard. So I'm going to hit Control right bracket to bring it back in front of our duplicate. I'm going to change the color fill of this to black, and then the opacity down to about 40%. Now I'll go and grab my profile picture again. And I'm going to drag that inside of this black circle. I'm going to save this profile picture, create a new folder, pictures. Inside of a new folder, I'm going to go grab some pictures of my friends. So I'll just save these really small images. Save image as, hovering over their name and saving their pictures. I'm going to grab about 7 or 8 pictures. And now I'll go back over to our create group screen. I want to make sure that all my text is, all right, so these right here I converted to vectors, so we don't have to worry about updating the text to make sure they're in the proper place. But I'll grab the me text and censor that vertically to our circle that we have in here as a profile image. I want to change the color of this icon to match the color of our app color, basically. And I'm going to group this icon with our check mark. I'll group that. I don't know if I can hide that or not. I'm going to hold shift and move this over twice. 1, 2, just temporarily. Now I'm going to grab the me text, our circle next to the me text, this 1 pixel divider, and our empty checkbox, and I'm going to group these together. And now what I'll do is click on repeat grid, and then I'll drag this expanding bar down to the bottom of our app. All right, now I'm going to grab this button and our cancel text. I'll hold Ctrl and the right bracket to bring this on top of everything, along with our 1 pixel line. And I'll go back and grab inside of our group. I'll go back and grab this checkbox icon, move it over twice, 1, 2, with the shift button, and then I'll hold Control and the right bracket to bring it back on top of the layer that's it's supposed to sit on top of, so the empty checkbox. So how many images do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 2 more images. Maybe 3, I think. Yeah, I need 3 more images. So go back to Facebook. Let me find 3 more images of 3 other people. And inside of my folder where those images are saved, I'm going to set mine as number 1. I'm going to hit tab, save this one as 2, tab 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll save this one as 91 and this one as 92. All right, so that I can make sure that I'm grabbing all of these in the order that I've saved them. All right, so I'm putting my own picture as number 1 because I want that one to show up first. So I'll click on my grid that we just created. You can choose whether or not you want to add more space in between each one. And with that selected, I'll open up my folder grab all of my images, and I'll make sure that I click and drag from my picture first. And we'll paste that on top of these black circles. I'm going to give it a second. It should update each individual circle with one of these square images we downloaded from Facebook. So let me try that again. There we go. All right, so all the images are updated automatically. I can go in here and add names to each individual text. So I'm just going to put random names in here. And there we go. This was our next screen. Everything is pretty much done here. All I have to do now is go back to prototype, and I want to grab this icon, and we're going to group these icons together in the design mode. Go back to prototype, and I'll send this over to this create group screen. I'm going to set it to dissolve, and I'm going to give it a 0.2 second dissolve. And we'll have it ease in, ease out. Now I'm going to bring the cancel button, and I'm going to grab the entire cancel block and group those together, and then we'll wire that back to our group screen, and we'll give it a dissolve again with the same transition and easing. Now I'm going to go back to our splash screen. I'm going to click on play, and you click the logo, it slides up. I go over to the groups, it slides over. I can switch between the two different options in the top, and I can click on this option, this icon in the bottom right hand corner now to fade our screen up. So maybe I want to do a slower transition. So let's see what that looks like first. So give it 0.8 seconds. And then the cancel button also to have 0.8 seconds. Hit play. And now I'll go back, file, save. And what I'm going to do, since this is the 2 hour 15-minute mark, is share this online with you guys on both Facebook and on YouTube. I'm going to save this as Tinder prototype tutorial. Let me go and just grab an image out of this. So I'm going to Control print screen, save a 120 by 120 image that we can use here. And save this image inside of our main folder as assets. Grab that folder, drag this icon here, allow comments, and I'm going to create a link. Now, once I share this link, you can click on this link. It's going to be in the description under, if this is YouTube and you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the description box below. If you're watching this on Facebook, it'll be in the comments. I'll also update the description of the Facebook post to have this link included. Which I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to pin my own comment of this URL. And as soon as I finish this stream, you guys will be able to access this on YouTube once I upload it. So if you can do me a favor and share this with someone who is a graphic designer, someone who is looking to get an app designed, or someone who you think should watch this video to learn how to design an app, and maybe you want to partner with someone and get together a startup for an app that you want created, this is the best process to go to get a prototype. You can take this prototype, which looks like this. Let me go to the link. And you can basically have the option for people to kind of click through some options. You can click anywhere on the screen in the app, or tap anywhere on the screen in the app if you're looking at this from your phone, and it'll show you helpers, which will highlight the only available buttons that you can press. All right, so since you guys kind of have gone through this entire live stream with me, you should know exactly what different icons, different buttons you can press. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think about it. What's one thing that you took away from this live stream that you didn't already know before? Give me a comment under the video. If you'd like to see me do something specific or create a module and a course that has modules and lessons that you can follow video by video on app design, which I kind of plan on doing anyway, let me know in the comments box below, and I will consider expediting that course and adding that to Memphis Entrepreneur Club.
Let's review the top 20.